So what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper, and welcome everybody to the video today. In this one, we're going to be talking about PUBG, but more in particular, we're going to be discussing the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, if you're not familiar with a sort of series like this, we're going to be looking at the game as a whole, talking about the things that are good about it, the things that are bad about it, that could be changed and, fixed pretty easily, and then the ugly, the things that are just absolutely horrible about the game. So essentially, today we're going to be taking a complete critical overview of PUBG, how it is in 2019, and where we're at with everything, and maybe if you haven't played this game in a while, if it's worth getting back into, and also should give us a good insight onto where PUBG is going in the future. Now, if you guys end up enjoying the video, then I would really appreciate a like rating. I know it's weird to ask for likes before a video begins and before you even watch it, but the way the algorithm is set up now, if you guys don't engage with the video very quickly, then it'll think you're not interested, and so unfortunately that's how it is right now. Hopefully that changes soon, but I'd really appreciate a like rating regardless. And if you're brand new around here and you enjoy this kind of content, if you want to help me out as well, make sure to go ahead and subscribe if you have not done so already. And near the end of this video, I'm going to have a question for you guys that's really going to help determine the way that PUBG is handled in the future, so make sure you stick around to the end of the video to answer that question after you watch. But with that stuff being said, guys, let's start with the good. Now, I'm happy to say definitely one of the greatest things about this game is that in 2019, it is the best optimized game that it has been since its entire lifespan. This means on PC, it's absolutely well optimized as it's ever been, and on console, it's miles above than when it came out. Even the mobile version of the game can pull off some ridiculous in-game features while still being relatively well optimized. So basically, a lot of players in the past who had left this game just because of the less than ideal optimization has really been addressed almost completely. Like, the game runs very smoothly on most machines, most consoles, and even most phones if you play on. The game's performance was one of the biggest hurdles that this had to overcome in order to still be like a relevant BR, and fortunately now, for people who are getting back into the game, this is the smoothest experience that you've ever had, especially if you hadn't played in a few months. I'm not going to say that the game is perfectly optimized and then there's no issues whatsoever now, but the game is miles ahead of where it used to be, and I think that's a very good thing, and it deserves praise. Another thing in the good, that I would argue that PUBG probably has the most fun core gameplay that it's ever had right now. Right now, we have the most amount of features, most dynamic assortment of weapons. New mechanics such as the ledge grab have been implemented, the BRDM tank, which is just an absolute ton of fun. 4 different fully fledged BR maps that are completely unique from each other and that play very differently as well, providing much replayability. There's now in-game challenge systems that you can go in and complete missions in order to get rewards from the menu. I could go on and on about how much the gameplay has improved and why it's so much fun, but I'm going to sum it up basically by saying PUBG, in my opinion, is still the most rewarding BR to play. And I say rewarding for a couple of different reasons. I think that not only the in-game rewards are a pretty cool thing to chase after, but the gameplay itself feels way more rewarding than any BR that I've played. I've gone through Apex Legends, Fortnite, Blackout. None of these other BRs have been able to hold my attention for as long as PUBG has, and I think it's just the core gameplay that is so satisfying and just straight up rewarding that keeps players coming back. And thankfully, even after all of the changes that Battlegrounds has made to its game over the past couple of months, it still hasn't lost that magic that it had. And it also still is the best BR when it comes to realism. Now, the thing is about PUBG, they don't go for exact, like, real-life realism. The people who make the argument that this should be exactly how it is in real life, then that it's just not simply good game design. PUBG's philosophy about the way they design their game is they go for like a pseudo-realism, or they call it their own brand of realism, because if everything was exactly how it is in real life, then the game would not be fun, and that's just simply a fact. So in my opinion, their guiding philosophy about this like pseudo-realism, to go back to that, I think is perfect for the direction of the game. Another good thing about the game is that PUBG simply just has more content than it's ever had as well, and the game is more accessible to players than it's ever been before. Aside from the staple BR game mode that PUBG offers, it also has some other things on the horizon. We also have maybe a TDM mode coming to PUBG that's already been introduced to PUBG Lite and PUBG Mobile. It plays really well, and it's a good thing to sort of still retain the core gameplay of Battlegrounds, but playing it in a little bit of a different setting. PUBG's been doing a really good job as of recently filling in the gaps of the game where there really wasn't much content to offer, and also adding some new things that we've never even thought to experience before. While PUBG is always going to be primarily a battle royale game, it's also expanding into other territories just to sort of grow the IP. You may have seen my video recently in which a brand new PUBG single player game has been announced. Striking Distance Studios is working on a single player game that is a narrative story in the PUBG universe. This is being made by Glenn Schofield, the creator of Dead Space, and this is great news if you ask me, because it can explore extra venues of PUBG that just aren't necessarily the BR, but probably will get outside people interested into the BR itself. Either way, the PUBG single player game is going to be a really cool experience for everybody who's been involved with this game at one point or another. Also in the good, the console crossplay for PUBG has just been announced the other day, so what this means is people on Xbox and PS4 are now going to be able to matchmake and play together. And that is fantastic news for anybody who plays on that, because now you're going to have significantly better matches made, and you're also going to be able to play with anybody you like on console and just have a better gameplay experience as a whole. Crossplay is slowly but surely becoming one of those just like main staples of games now, and if something doesn't have it, then they're going to be lagging behind, so I'm glad PUBG has finally caught on to this. Another thing in the good section, PUBG has been great very recently about listening to the community, giving us feedback, and just basically keeping us up to date with what they plan to do with the game. These updates have been releasing, and they've been letting us know exactly what's into it and what their plans are for the future. They're also very in tune with listening to the players and people in their community. The things that we discuss on this channel and also other YouTube channels that talk about this kind of stuff really get listened to and sometimes even implemented into the game pretty quickly on. Like, for example, the exploding gas can, I would like to think that our channel at least had a small part in doing that. And that's just a small example. And while PUBG is not going to listen to literally every suggestion they get, and nor should they do take out the best patterns of people who are saying stuff and, you know, features that we would like to have added. And most of the time, they end up being really good ideas and healthy for the game. I think PUBG also does it right with the way that they announce content. They give us like a general roadmap of what we can expect in the next coming months, but they don't tell us everything, and they leave some stuff up for surprise, which I think is important as well. Because this way we get a general heads up on the big things that are coming to the game that we need to know about, but also leaving some of the smaller stuff to be as a little surprise when we finally see it in the game. Also in the good, something that I'd like to talk about here is that the PUBG community is still strong and solid. And the reason I bring this up is the fact that despite how long this game has been out and all of these other BRs that have come after it, PUBG's community has still remained very solid, and it really hasn't wavered at all when it comes to like numbers and stuff. Despite this not being the most popular battle royale game, still being beaten out by Fortnite, this doesn't mean that the community that's around it is going anywhere. And that's really impressive to me, because I look at PUBG as sort of like an anomaly. This should have been a BR that quickly came out and was forgotten. A lot of like these other BRs that have come out after it have just came and went very quickly and just vanished, but PUBG for some reason has been able to live through it all and stick around, which I think is a testament to its gameplay. The way that Battlegrounds has been handled recently under its new management that happened a while ago, I think ended up being a very positive change. I was skeptical about it when it happened, but over these past few months, they've proved me wrong time and time again that they know exactly what they're doing, and so this is something I'm really happy to report. So to summarize a lot of the good that we discussed, PUBG is very well optimized now, and if that was one of the reasons why you stopped playing in the past, then that issue has almost fully been addressed. Also, the gameplay is as fun as it's ever been as well. We have the most amount of content, features, and different mechanics that are going to keep you interested and engaged for a long period of time. The PUBG universe continues to expand with the lore that was built into Erangel Remastered, and also the single player game coming out, which I think can go in a really interesting direction, and people seem to be very engaged and involved with that, which is nice to see. Also, the way that updates are announced and when new content comes out, PC is going to get stuff first, but console only has to wait 2 weeks now before the next update instead of waiting for months on end. So they're going to be closing the gap between wait time with all of these platforms, with PC, console, and mobile, hopefully getting all of this content way closer together. And overall, the community around this game remains solid, and I think is going to stay solid for a long time to come. So that's a lot of the good that I wanted to talk about, and don't underestimate a lot of this stuff, because this is very important to the game as well. But now let's talk about the bad. And so this is essentially going to be the things that I don't really prefer, or that I'm not a fan of in PUBG, but I feel it can be pretty easily addressed. First up in the bad, the issue with game security with hackers and cheaters still isn't completely perfect. Now, what I will say anecdotally for me is I've had no problems with hackers in over a year, but a lot of people in my comment section, and depending on what region you play and what server you play, some people still experience hackers pretty often. Now, unfortunately, the problem is that there's so many different ways to play and then get around through loopholes to hack in this game that it makes it easier for some people, depending on where you are, to cheat in this game. But the silver lining to this is PUBG has very recently implemented a new system that should crack down on a lot of the cheaters that have already been in the game. Unfortunately, no game, and especially something like this on PC, is 100% hack or cheat free. Every game has it to some degree, but I feel like PUBG has definitely gotten the worst of it out of games in recent years, but it's significantly improved as the years have went on. But unfortunately, it's still not perfect, and it's not where some players would like it to be. And again, as I said, anecdotally, I haven't had any problems with hackers, so I can't really make a testament to that, but a lot of you guys still feel very passionately about hackers in the game, and this is being addressed as we speak, which is good. So I guess be patient and it should improve with time. The systems of these games are very complex, so every time a change is made, it opens up another potential loophole for a hack or a cheat to happen. So again, while it's definitely got better, it's maybe not ideal right now when it comes to certain regions. Next up in the bad, I feel like PUBG has sort of been misusing some of their recent content, and let me explain exactly what I think about this. A lot of items and weapons have been introduced recently that would be so fun to play with in the regular BR, but either they've been completely cut from the game or they've been added in a way that nobody's going to play with them. So for example, you might remember some of the helmet repair kits, the vest repair kit, and also the vehicle repair. These got added to PUBG very recently, but only in custom games for some reason, and it just kind of makes me scratch my head and ask why. I gotta be honest, PUBG, if somebody's watching from there, nobody is really bothered with custom games, and especially on PC. And my solution to this is simply add it to public games, but make something like, we'll take for example the helmet repair kit, make it an extremely rare item that can only be attained through flare gun airdrops, so that way it's not an overpowered feature, it's not an item that everybody's going to be spamming. This way you avoid an item like that being misused, but you at least give an opportunity for your majority of players to experience this content that you've developed. If you're going to develop items and content that are only in custom games that hardly anybody's going to play, then it essentially feels like a waste of time. Another example of this is the things like the riot shield and the C4, which were already supposed to be in the game months and months ago and still haven't made an appearance. And if maybe they want to test these things out in order for game balance to be working properly, then they can try it out in custom games, but I don't feel like that's the best way to do it. If they want to release it on the test server or have like a certain like beta program that people could play, like a game mode that doesn't really count for public matches, but you could try these things out with a bigger player base, then I think that'd be a better solution. The point I'm trying to make here is I don't like them developing content that's never going to see the light of day. I don't want them to essentially waste their time. And so again, my solution for these things, these pieces of content that should be in public matches, but they're not entirely sure if they want to add them in, is either make them like a flare gun airdrop award if it's something like a vest or a helmet repair kit, or if it's something like the C4 or riot shield, maybe have a specific game mode that people can play specifically to try out these items. Another thing in the bad is pretty much no new maps are going to be developed from this point on unless something changes, which isn't good. I mean, and to be fair, we already have 4 fully fledged maps that are all, you know, completely unique and very fun experiences in and of themselves. But the problem is, are we going to have these 4 maps forever, or is something going to change? We have Erangel that turned into Erangel Remastered, and from this point on, we can probably expect the other maps to get remastered at some point. As far as getting completely brand new maps that we've never seen before, I wouldn't hold your breath just yet, because they just can't simply afford to keep making new maps and spreading the player base. And this gets into the matchmaking thing, which we'll talk about in a little bit, because we're just saving this for the bad right now. Again, this no new map thing is a relatively small and isolated problem. We have a lot of maps at our hand right now, so I don't think we're struggling in that regard at all. And the remasters of maps are very good. Erangel Remastered is proof of concept that this sort of thing works. But unfortunately, there's plenty of ideas, and I'm sure PUBG Corp has a million things that they want to do with new maps. They just, unfortunately, is not in the cards right now, and hopefully that's able to change soon. Another thing in the bad is that there are still some remaining bugs in PUBG. Now, it's never going to get to a point, I don't want to set an unrealistic expectation. Any video game is never going to get to a point where it's 100% bug-free, unless you want no new content ever. Every time something new gets added to a game, new bugs pop up. That's just sort of how game dev works. But it seems like every single patch that comes out, whether it's big or small, there's also like a million additional bug fixes that come out. And I mean, it's a good thing that they're fixing them, but they keep popping up with every brand new update. And it's basically like every time a new patch comes out, we get on and we're like, okay, so what's broken now? As I was saying though, the silver lining is that these do get, you know, kind of flattened out pretty quickly. But as it stands, there still are some bugs that haven't been addressed at all. And then finally, in the bad section, there are a couple of things regarding the gameplay balance that I'm still just not really a fan of, and I think that could be changed. For example, frag grenades, I think, are way too overpowered and are teetering on the edge of just being completely broken. And a lot of people are on the side of, but realism, bro, and grenades need to be able to one-shot. Like, you again, what we were saying earlier about the pseudo-realism or the own brand of realism, you can't really have that mentality when it comes to something like this, right? You want to keep realism in a game so that grenades one-shot basically anywhere, but you also want to keep in a feature where you teleport to a second seat to shoot out the window. It's also a game where you recover health by drinking drinking Red Bull energy drink. Exact realism, and especially when it comes to the grenade argument, is just absolute BS. This is just one example, but I really think grenades are way too overpowered, they're way too easy to use, and in my opinion, they could really do with a little bit of a damage nerf. And there's also, multiple examples of different things that I would tweak with gameplay balance, but we're not going to get into all those. Those are just a lot of the encompassing bad things that can easily be fixed. All right, now we're moving away from the bad. Let's get into the ugly. These are the things that really threaten the game as a whole. These are the problems that aren't so easily fixed and can really, have devastating effects if left unchecked. First thing in the ugly are matchmaking issues and server. Now, I made an entire video the other day pretty much talking about these 2 points in particular, but I'm going to reiterate what I said in that video just in case you missed it and also add some additional info to it. The core problem is basically this: there are too many different ways that players are divided. Let's actually try to visualize this. I'm going to break this down from the beginning for you, okay? So we have, first of all, there are two different perspectives that players can choose. So we have first person and we have third person. And within those two divisions, there are also many different servers that a lot of these players are going to be on. We have like the North American server, there's the Oceanic, there's the European server, yada, yada, yada. Within all of those servers and perspectives, we also have 4 different maps that can be played. So you can see like where this spider web of division keeps going down and down, like really thinning out the player base, unfortunately. And this really, really hurts matchmaking. Where I primarily play in North America first person, I literally can't find any other map since Erangel Remastered to come out. This is pretty much the featured map as it is right now, and fair enough. It's a brand new thing. They want people playing on it, but I haven't been able to find a game of Miramar. I maybe found 1 or 2 games of Sanhok, and I haven't played Vikendi in probably 2 months. Feels like every single match I play with the same set of people every single day, and that kind of gets old after a while. And the problem ends up culminating into an issue where players can't experience the content that they'd like to play. Like, even if I wanted to, I probably couldn't find a match of Vikendi if I just wanted to jump on and play. I'd probably have to wait maybe 20 to 30 minutes to even find a game, and it's restricting me from parts of the game that I can enjoy. There unfortunately aren't enough players to fill up every single game mode possible, and it's just spread way too thin currently. I don't really see an easy fix for this either. You can try, you like featuring maps that people play on per week, or you can try like kind of combining some of the servers, but that causes issues in and of itself. There's no simple solution to this, unfortunately, and that's why I think this like really needs some attention. Another thing in the ugly is that this also still doesn't have crossplay with PC. Now, hold on, I know some people are going to get sort of like triggered or annoyed by that people playing on console could play with people on PC, but what I have noticed is that Fortnite has done it well, and even Call of Duty very recently has proved in concept that controller players, for the most part, can hang with mouse and keyboard. I know PUBG is a completely different game than Fortnite is and also Call of Duty, but I think it's at least worth thinking about maybe having console players play in the same matchmaking pool as PC. It would be, I really do think that mouse and keyboard players would still probably have an advantage at the end of the day, but I don't think it would be as big of a deal as people think, and it would also address exactly the issue that I was talking about with matchmaking. If we could kind of combine these pools of players and just have more spots to fill, that would make matchmaking and like any map that you would want to play much easier to do so. When it comes to balance, there are controller users on things like Fortnite that literally, there are physically pro players that play against mouse and keyboard that just use controller all day, and it works out for them fine. And so I think PUBG really isn't too far of a stretch to think that we could do that as well. I know there's a lot of hurdles to overcome to have crossplay between console and PC, especially on this game, but I think it could happen. At the very least, it's an idea that's worth thinking about, in my opinion. And I want to know from you guys, do you think that this could be a good idea of having PC and console playing together, at least to help matchmake? Because one of the big problems right now is that the PC player base is very static, and it seems that everybody in my lobbies nowadays is a YouTuber, a streamer, or a pro player, and nobody really wants to play in that all day every day. It becomes like this sweat fest. It feels like you're playing a pro scrim and you should just be having casual fun. So at the end of the day, something needs to be done about the static player base, and it would be really helpful if all Battlegrounds players somehow, some way could play together more efficiently. Another thing in the ugly is that mods aren't going to be able to happen until the security issues are dealt with. Now, I'm going to be making a full video about this in the future, so I'm not going to go too in detail into it right now, but I think mods for this game could be very, very helpful. Think of how much fun it would be if we were given mod tools that we can make our own maps with, make our own weapons, vehicles, stuff like that. Just give the community the power to develop anything they like using the in-game tools of PUBG, and just develop some absolutely wild things, and then have the community play on that. Honestly, mods save games, but it's literally not possible until the security is really tightened down on this game. It would be a miracle if that were able to happen, and then we were able to get some mod tools for everybody to use. We'd have some unbelievably cool things made by the community, and I think could genuinely bring a lot of attention to the game. Again, we'll talk about mods way more in depth in a future future video, but basically it can't happen until something is dealt with. And then finally, the last thing in the ugly, PUBG is being banned in many regions in the world. Now, this is a problem that's not necessarily PUBG's fault. This is like a problem of the government essentially in those areas. But in places like China and a few other countries, the game has just been straight up completely censored and banned, which is just not good for the game as a whole. Fortunately though, I don't see this problem spreading to too many countries from here on out. But if for whatever reason the game continues to get blocked in certain countries and maybe that does expand to places outside of that region, then it could be bad news for this game. Of course, it goes without saying that there's really nothing PUBG itself can do in order to address that problem. That is something that's completely up to the government in that country. But regardless, it's something that's just not good and something to look out for. Now, for those of you who are paying attention at the beginning of the video, I said I had a question for you that's going to determine how PUBG is developed in the future. Now, the question is this. I want you to let me know in the comment section, what is it about PUBG that makes you want to keep playing? Is it the gameplay itself? Is it the rewards that the game offers? Is it playing with your friends and the experience that you can have on there? What exactly, if you could narrow it down to maybe a couple of different things that keeps you playing PUBG? Because I feel like if Battlegrounds is able to focus in on those things that players love and what got them addicted to this in the first place, and capitalize on that, then it'll keep players interested while also getting new players invested into the game. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below, and also let me know what you thought about this entire video down below in the comment section. Is there anything that I mentioned that you agree with, that you disagree with? Definitely let me know your opinions. And also, before you guys go, make sure you follow me over on Twitch where I'm going to be streaming. Link is down below inside the description, and if you haven't already followed me up over there, then make sure you go ahead and do that. But anyways, guys, that's going to be the video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all on the next stream or the next video. Take it easy and peace out.